king and queen against a king. Now this is important. In the other checkmates, you've had two pieces to work with and they can go off and checkmate the king all by themselves. You can't checkmate a king just with a queen, so you're going to need the help of your own king. And because you've got less firepower, this is going to be a little bit longer, a little bit harder, and we also need to watch out for our stalemates again. So the first thing we're going to do is not do blind checking. We're going to make a fence. So there's the fence, and the king moves, and now we need to bring our king up. Something like this. And now the lots of ways of doing this, but we'll drive the king back with a check. So the queen's protected by the king. If you ever move the queen next to the king, it has to be protected by your own king. And we've made not just a fence, we actually made a cage. We made we're cutting off the king into that little corner. So the king moves down, we move our king up, and we move our king up. And where's the king going to go? Well, the king in that position had to go to the edge of the board. Now, there are different checkmates that we can do, but they all happen at the edge of the board. Let me show you the checkmates. This is what we're aiming for. There's a checkmate like this. Checkmate at the edge of the board. There's a checkmate like this, a checkmate in the corner. And the last sort of checkmate that we get is a checkmate like this. The king is stopping the king coming forward in the way that a rook or a queen might have done last time, but it's very similar to the sorts of mates that we've seen before. The king only needs to control these squares. It doesn't have to control everything on this row, but it's the same sort of checkmate as you've seen before. So those are the sorts of checkmates that we're aiming for. Okay. So we've just moved so that the king has hit the edge of the board. Now that's very important, and when the king hits the edge of the board, you try and keep it there. Now, can you see a move that is, for the queen that's going to keep the king on the edge of the board? You have to move, or you can. The best move is to G2. We've made a fence at the edge of the board. The king is trapped onto those red squares, and now we can bring our own king up and checkmate. King H5, King F5. Queen G6 is one of the mates that we looked at earlier. If the king had come, maybe instead of to H5, if the king had come to H7, we'll go and chase it with our own king. King H6, and that's our other mate. King H6, we've actually got this mate as well. And if after King to F6, the king had gone in the corner, that's our corner mate. All right. So drive the king to the edge of the board, and when it reaches the edge of the board, you trap it, and then you deliver checkmate. What could be easier? Well, it could be easier if there wasn't the worry of stalemate. So in this position, the king's hit the edge of the board, and I can quite imagine that you'd want to bring your king up and deliver checkmate. So if you could move the queen to this square, it would be checkmate. So why not bring your king up to F6? The king comes to H5, and now G6 isn't going to be checkmate, but G5 is going to be checkmate. So we'll bring our queen up and threaten queen to G5. And now the king is a knight's move away from both the king and the queen. There's no check there, and what we've got here is a position where the king can't move to any of the squares that it wants to. So always worry about what your opponent's next move is, especially if they don't have one. So this is the difficulty with this type of checkmate, and you do often hear at the end of a game a wail from one or other player about stalemate, and you give away a win when you and only get a draw when you should have won. There is a secret technique. It's not that secret, but there is a cunning technique which I was first shown by a chap called Dave Scott about how to avoid this, which I thought was rather neat. So we go back to our start position, and so instead of making a fence, what you do is you move your queen so that it's a knight's move away from the king. All right, easy enough. Well, fairly easy. And in this position we can do it in one move, but you move the queen so it's a knight's move away from the king, and then you chase the king to the edge of the board, and you do that by copying the moves that the king makes. So if the king moves forward, you move forward. If the king moves backwards, you move backwards. So here the king moves to the side and down, we move to the side and down, keeping a knight's move away. Forward, 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 down and sideways, down and sideways, keeping a knight's move away. King g7, and now the king has only got moves to the side of the board. So if the king moves to, say, g8, now that's the important moment that we talked about earlier. The king has hit the side of the board, and you need to find a square that will hold the king on the side of the board and give it a bit of space as well. And in this case, that's d7. The king has got a couple of squares to fidget about in, so it's not going to be stalemate. And we just race our king up the board. And there's lots of checkmates here. We'll just use this one. Okay, do you get that? That's all there is to it, I think. When the king had the choice of going to the edge of the board on the other side, it could have moved to the right hand edge here. What's the square that we need for this position? It's g4, and then again we'll race our king up, and then we can deliver checkmate. This takes a little longer, so it's slower in terms of more moves. But if all you're doing is copying exactly what black does, you actually might be able to play it faster. So you might use less clock time. So I don't mind you doing that at all. And if that's so, I think that may be a nice idea. So there's two methods of checkmating the king, one of which is immune to stalemate. So why not try that? Just chase the king with the queen, and then keeping a knight's move away, and then checkmate at the end. That's all there is to it. If you think you know one or other of those methods, come and have a chat.